let's see an example of a dictionary. So we have a list of phone numbers, which is phones, and I create a dictionary where I have two pairs. So one is for police and another is emergency. And the key is the name and the value is a number or the phone number. Basically, currently both are strings. So here we have key and here we have value. Now, what we can do with first, I can just print out phones, so I get the whole dictionary. Now I can print out a certain element, so I just have taken phones and taken, for example, police here. So I can print out what is the value of the value for the key police. Now I can add a new phone number. For example, Taltech has a phone number. I just added, it's a local number, so probably it should be +7372 here. And I can print out the new values of this phones variable. Now I just have, in addition to those two in the beginning, I have this Taltech number also there. I can remove an element using del. So del, and then I just point to a element at certain position. So the key and the value pair is removed. And now I've printed out, I will have two numbers there because I removed the value or the key value pair police. And now I can just print out the items, the values and the keys. So if I run it, we can see that first I had those two numbers here. I just printed out the value for police. And now I have, I added Taltech number here also. So I have Taltech here. Now I removed police and now I have only two pairs or two kind of elements in my dictionary. And now I printed out the items, which gives me key value pairs. So we have key value here, emergency 112, and Taltech with a number. Then I printed out values, which only gives me all the values from dictionary. And then I print out all the keys, which gives me all the keys from the dictionary. Now I have another example, which is about a training plan. I just comment out the first part. So if I print something, then it's not shown in the screen. And what happens here is that I make it a bit smaller. I have a training. So basically, the idea behind this is that I have a weekday, let's say Monday, and on Mondays I have several things to do. So basically I can say that I have at 10 o'clock I have a run, and at 12 o'clock I have a swim. Then I have Wednesday, and then I have what I have, gym, and I have late, I have a walk, and so on. First, for example, if I have a task to kind of represent my schedule for my trainings or for my activity, then there are different ways to represent it. What I have chosen here is that in cases where I have something like that, where I want to point that certain value has certain contents, I use dictionary. And for example, on Mondays I have certain things, then I will say that, okay, let's use dictionary where the key is my weekday and value is something what happens on Monday and also Wednesday. And here I say that this is dictionary, say that ends here. And now, because on Mondays I do several things, it's wise to use also some data structure there. But here I also use dictionary. And I use it because I want to get to know what happens at certain times. Here I have 18 and I have late. So in my case, I can say that the times can be certain times like 18 or something like that, or they can be not so certain as late or morning or evening or night or whatever. So that's the structure I've chosen for my program here. And now, for example, if I want to know what I do Wednesday evening or late on Wednesdays, I can ask, let's say it's training, I can ask training at Wednesday. Of course, we have to have, those are all strings. So if I write training at Wednesday, this one points to this dictionary here, or this value to be more general. So if I would have a dictionary where I have just a count of different activities on Wednesday, I would get maybe 7 here or 2 or whatever. But now, because the value here is dictionary, this one points to this dictionary. And because it is a dictionary, I can ask also what is happening late. And now this one already points to this value here, because the first one points to this dictionary, and now from this dictionary I access this key and I get this value. Of course, if I ask something like Sunday, which I don't have, I will get an error. Also, if I would ask Wednesday, which I do have, but I ask what happens at 12 on Wednesday, I will also get an error because there is no such key. But in my current case, I know that I have Wednesday late, and I can access this value. I know that I'm walking here. And now, here's also the same example that I ask what's happening on Friday morning. So it's something doing with yoga. And I can add a new value. So for example, I add here Thursday, I put it here, Thursday. And here will be, what will be night power sleep. Night and sleep. Now I'll just write sleep here. So basically I can add something. If I try to add, for example, something else for Thursday, I would have to add it. Nope. If I do that, for example, training Thursday, and I add new dictionary here, example dictionary at 12, I do run, then what happens is that it's overwritten. In the current case, this one will be deleted, and instead of night power sleep, I will have at 12 running. To add something into this dictionary, we have to, it's basically the same. Maybe it would be nice to have this example. For example, if I have a D, which is a dictionary, for example, dictionary where we have night sleep, and now I do this. D is instead 12 points to run. This is understandable that the first one is overwritten because I overwrite this dictionary. Basically here is the same. This one is a dictionary, now I overwrite this dictionary. So instead, if I want to add this 12 into my schedule for this dictionary, I have to write it like that. D at 12 is running. Now if I print out this D, I comment out this print line here, then I know that everything I print is relevant. And now if I print it out, I can see that the night sleep is here, and I've added a new element or new key value pair. The same applies for this Thursday. So instead of doing that, I can do training Thursday, and at 12 let's do a run. And I can print out the whole training, for example. Okay, my training here is somewhere Thursday night, and at 12 I have the running. So I added a new element. Okay, this is nice. But let's now try to do something with this schedule. I tried to draw my activity as a, I don't know, training plan or something like that. So first thing I want to do, I need to, let's say I have a certain structure how I want to see it. The first thing I would like to print out the day and all the activities for that day. For that we can use for loop, and we have several different ways how to approach that. For example, let's do so that we print out or have a for loop for X in training. I specifically chose X here to see what happens with this X. And now I print out this X. If I have a for loop over the dictionary, by default it loops over the keys. So now I can only get the keys. If I would like to get, for example, values, I can have values here. So now I loop over for all the values from this dictionary. So I get those all those inner dictionaries. And I can also do so that it's items. And now I get all the key value pairs. So Monday and corresponding dictionary, Wednesday corresponding dictionary, and so on. Now what Python allows you to do is, because when you loop, every element in this loop is actually a tuple of two elements. The first one is the key and the second one is the value. And now if I print out the X, it happens that the X actually contains of two values, those key and values. Now I can write it as this key, comma, value. Now what happens is that it takes an element out of these items, but as we know, the element itself contains of two elements, the key and the value. For example, Monday is key and this is all the value. Now it automatically points or maps this key into the first variable here and the value to another variable here. So I've specifically chosen key and value, so I know that the first one is the key and the second one is the value. Now I don't have X, so I have to print out key and I print out the value. And now we can see that I have Monday as the key value and value is the dictionary. So okay, it's already better. So I kind of have my schedule already, but it's not really nice or not really in this condition that I would like it to be in the end. So because the value itself is also a dictionary, I can loop over it. So I can, instead of printing it out, I can have a for loop. And let's also have X here. For X in value items. And print out X. So now what happens is that it prints out key values for every activity on a certain day. So I get 10 and run and so on. So again, let's use two values here. So not, okay, I didn't do it before. I can show here that if I really want to have X here, I can use it as this. So I print out the key or the first element of this tuple, which is the value of the key. And now I only get times. And if I want, I can print also out X1. So this is the second element of every key value pair, which is the value. And now I get also the activity at that time, which is already quite nice. But still, I just I try to use always variable names which kind of tell me what they are. So instead of key, here the key is also not a very good name here, but let's start with this. It's basically time and activity. Now I don't have this X, and here instead of key I can change all the I can rename the variable so it renames all the occurring variables inside my code. So instead of key I use here weekday, because it is a weekday. Value is also better, would be to use, for example, day activities, for example, activities. Yes, activities. So now if I read my code or everyone else reads my code, it's more understandable, especially the more complex the code is, the harder it is to read if the variables are not named meaningfully. Now I can print out the time and the activity, for example. And now I kind of have my schedule. Of course, I could kind of, for example, let's add just some space before the activities. Now I get an overview. Okay, Monday I have those things, on Wednesday I have this, and Friday and Thursday and so on. So here I have just the same pointers as I did in my code. So you loop over the items or the key value pairs. I can extract the values into key and value and use two different variables for that, as is here name and phone number, and now I can use the name and phone number variables. I can iterate over the keys, so this is the default iteration. If I just try to iterate over the dictionary, I get all the keys. And now if I have the key name, I can use this to access the value. So basically those two are the same. Now I have this same example I had in my what I used to write code. I just copy it here. I have done a bit more job with my schedule representation. I just added one print here, or several prints, so there are just empty lines, so I can know where my better print starts and then where it ends. So as you can see, I've just kind of tried to make it more kind of table-like. So there is like a Monday training, and there's the time and activity, then Wednesday, Friday, and Thursday. Of course, the orders can also be better. So for example, the Thursday should be before the Friday and so on. But the idea here is to show how to iterate over a dictionary. But also what you can see is that it's actually quite few code. I mean, it's just one print for every day and one print for every time and activity. What I have used here is f-string, and with f-string I can use kind of different ways to format the code. So for example, there is the alignment to the left and the alignment to the right and also to the center. So it's quite easy to use those to align your text. Of course, it can be done without f-string. You can calculate how long the text is, how many spaces you have to add before and after the string and so on, but it's more convenient to use those f-string alignment opportunities. And here is the example result. So just a quick example how to iterate over a dictionary, how to use dictionary. Usually you don't have such complex dictionaries. You probably have something like the phone numbers. But the idea is the same. You can iterate over the keys, over the values, or items, or even more precisely key value pairs. Depending whether you need only the keys or only the values, or if you need both key and value, it's always wise to use the items iteration, because then you have two variables, it's more easy to understand your code because you can specify what is the value for that. If I just used x here, it's not so convenient, or even if I can use something like that here, where I have the key, but now this part in my code, instead of using phone number as a variable name here, I use phones at position name. So currently it's understandable that I have phone numbers there, but it might not be the case. And in those cases, it's always kind of easier to understand if you use these items and give meaningful names for your variables. And now if I use one variable here, then I know what the writer of this code is as meant when the code was written. So often, or usually, you should, or actually always you should think about that another developer later on can understand your code. So try to have meaningful names, and also try to use wherever possible variables instead of pointing those through the indexes. Of course, if it's easy code and it's understandable, there's no point to especially give this variable a name. Often it might be even hard to come up with the names, but still this one is more readable or understandable than this code here. And as a summary for dictionary, we can say that dictionary is used to represent a mapping. So we can say that at what time we want to do something, or we have names and corresponding phone numbers and so on. When we want to find out whether there is a key in dictionary, for example, whether John is in my dictionary or in my phone book, this check is fast. If you compare it with a list check, for example, I have a list of names and I want to know whether Jack is in this list. This takes time because in essence the Python has to go through the whole list. So you have to check the first one, the second one, so on. But in dictionary, the key check is really fast. So basically the complexity is 01. So basically it means that there is only one operation done when you get this result or this value actually. So inside the dictionary, key check is fast. Keys can be immutable objects, only strings, numbers, tuples, booleans, none. You cannot use mutable objects. You cannot use lists, sets, dictionaries, and other objects there. This is basically the same as with sets. Inside set, you cannot use mutable objects, and sets are unique. The same applies for dictionary keys. Dictionary keys are unique, and you cannot use mutable objects there. The order is not preserved, or it is not guaranteed to be the same as you create your dictionary, although in most implementations, in the recent versions of Python, it is the same as you are adding the elements. So if you insert elements into a dictionary, the order of those elements are the same. But it's the data type, the dictionary data type, or in more general, the map data type you are using in different programming languages, it is not guaranteed. So it would be nice for you to also don't take it as granted that you have the same order as you insert the elements. So it's even easier to think that the order is always random. Although as you try it, you can see that the insertion order is actually preserved in Python. Keys are unique, so you cannot have two same keys in your dictionary. If you try to add a key value bar with the same or existing key, the original one is overwritten. And each key has exactly one value. but this value can be a list, so you can kind of have several values for one key. The same goes, for example, this Monday here. Although it has one value, the value is this dictionary here, but dictionary represents several values. But yeah, technically one key has one value. You cannot have Monday, which points to this value, and Monday also points to another value. You cannot have that. Yeah, and as mentioned, value can be mutable object, list, dictionary, set, whatever. So that way you can have mapping from one to many.